Morning, folks. We'll get to Santa in a minute, okay? But let me sort out Facebook and then we'll get to it. Now, folks, if you see me bend down every now and again, it's because I'm shooing the cat away to keep it out of trouble. Because it's got a habit of running about my feet, and here in the office there's a lot of cables, and I don't want them yanking any out the back of the computer. So, if you see me bending out every now and again, it's because I'm moving the cat out the way of something. Where are we? Okay, let's get Facebook on board. Right, that's Facebook on board. Good morning, everybody. Welcome aboard. If you're wondering what Santa's doing there, well, those who have been watching me for years on Facebook will know that prior to the Christmas special, Santa here pops in with a wee gift for me and to pick up the list of people who have been on the naughty step. So if you've been on the naughty step, Santa's here. I, Melanie, that includes you. Santa's here to get your name. So if you wake up on Christmas morning, thanks, Lenny. If you wake up on Christmas morning and there's nothing there, you'll know it's because Santa's popped in and you've been on the naughty step. So stay off the naughty step, folks. Candles lit, although it is burning down a bit now. You burn your arse in it. Okay, so that's why Santa's there. That, and he's here to supervise me decorating the office for the Christmas Day broadcast. Right, we're up to the 50 mark, so let's get this broadcast underway. It's Indie Truck Davy on the 17th to the 12th, 2024, in his office in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire, where it is a dreich damp morning. I've got it in dark. I've got a big light on. So that's how it is here in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire. I dare say it's pretty much the same where you are, but if you don't know and you do want to know what the weather's like where you are, look out your own bloody windy. Okay, let's get this underway. There's some wacky shit in the press today, in the printing press today. And as there is some wacky shit in it, we'll go through it and talk through the wacky shit. The first up of the day, we have the Times. I think I've got it here, so I'll stick it up. At that end. Here we go. Spy at the heart of Duke's charity in China. Now, what's this all about? This kerfuffle, this crap on the front page about Prince Andrew and a Chinese spy. Well, there's two things that you should know about this here. Prince Andrew is a representative of the state, a state that was hostile to China. In fact, a state that tried to turn the Chinese people into drug addicts, into opiate addicts. So, this wandering salesman, representative of the state, who sells arms on behalf of arms companies here in the British state, rocks up in China and sets up operations. Now, we're being told it's a charity. Well, let's take it as face value, it's a charity. But you are the Chinese state, and you have a history with this hostile empire called the British Empire. And one of its minor statespersons rock up and open operations in your state. Well, guess what? The British state knew there'd be spies infiltrating Andy's charity. Because the Chinese would want to know why Andy had rocked up in their foreign land to start with. Question this, folks. What is a minor noble doing running a charity in China? A minor noble who just happens to be an arms salesman for UK arms companies on behalf of the state. This is a nonsense story. Before Andy had hit the surface in China, the UK state already knew that the Chinese state would be infiltrating Andy's operations, because they would want to know what this hostile state was doing, setting up operations in their state. And that's why this is a nonsense story. So the question is going to be, what's it covering? What's it covering up? And apparently China's a new bogeyman. We'll get more of that as we go down through this story in each of the papers. Next up, we have the Telegraph. And it says, spy suspect was Duke's money man. So apparently, this guy was a rich businessman that studied here in the UK and was recruited, apparently, to help to help Andy with his operations. Then it turns out that he was a two-way. He was also trying to find out for his state what it was this minor royal and arms salesman was then rocking up in China. This is nonsense stuff. Absolute nonsense. I'll tell you what, after independence, the way we've been treated by Westminster, not the English people, but by Westminster, if we become a republic and one of the minor royals rocks up here to open a charity, believe me, I would expect the Scottish state to have somebody infiltrate it and all to find out what the potential of that is. So, nonsense story. But it gets worse. The Eye also runs on royal nonsense. And its headline, UK toughens up surveillance on China suspect as Palace banishes Andy again. Hey, this is nonsense, this fucking spy story. When Andy, a minor noble and representative of the state, was sent to China, the state would have been aware of what the Chinese would do. And that would be to infiltrate that operation. Right, but now the other interesting bit is this banished again, Andy banished again on the back of this non-story. Yesterday there was a digital headline that said that a Duke and ex-wife pull out of Christmas dinner at Sandringham. So what was it? Yesterday he was pulled out of going to Sandringham for Christmas dinner. Today he's been banished. What is it? But the question is, why are we getting this nonsense in our printed rags? Could it well be that we're in an economic downturn? That the new government's acting like the old government and has no imagination and no way of getting out of this while shouting growth, growth, growth on the back of a fucking mad Brexit, which has seen GDP shrink and people fucking worse off for thousands of pounds a year. Businesses going tits up left, right and centre. Mad budget that sees the economy going to further meltdown. Economic figures issued this week that tells us we're in a fucking recession and that the economy's flatlined and it's projected to be that way for at least the next 5-6 years. Oh, I wonder what this shite story could be hiding. Hey. And of course we've got the most unpopular government in Westminster since fucking records began. So I wonder what this story's hiding. What a fucking nonsense. Right. The only rag a Daily Fail has. Let's stick it up, I think I'll go up. No, I've not got it. So what does the Daily Fail have? Only rag a Daily Fail has. As Andrew linked China spy as a unmasked and IDS warns Beijing has penetrated every level of our economy and institutions. Why is Starmer still sucking up to the Chinese? Well, the reality of it is, Starmer's no sucking up to the Chinese. Starmer's doing what he's having to do to try and find this fucking growth he's promised. But as I say, this story about spies is nonsense. The other interesting part of the headline is on the front page of the Daily Fail. It also has a subheadline telling us that Fergie talked Andy out of no going to Sandringham for Christmas dinner. So, it's all fucking nonsense. But as I say, what's the reason behind all this nonsense? As I say, Brexit, economic meltdown, budget that's a fucking disaster, seeing the economy contract even further. Economic data out this week which has to be covered up because really frightening stuff. That's what this is about, folks. And we get more of that nonsense when we hit the Scottish papers, the proper ones. What we've had here is English papers so far printed in Scotland, with Scotland in their title. The Metro's another one. Apparently the guy who's supposed to be this Chinese spy is denying it. But let's go back to the last headline. Infiltrated institutions in our economy. If I remember right, it was the UK government that invited the Chinese in to invest. The Scottish government was there at one point or all. And it's as for institutions, and they've infiltrated our institutions. This businessman happened to go to school in England, at York University or Durham University or one of the universities. I think it was Stoke University. So there's thousands of Chinese students attending institutions here, institutions of higher education. I wonder if that's the institutions that the lonely rags talk about. And anyway, apparently this guy's name, he's been named Yang Ting Bo Yang. He's a Chinese businessman, and apparently he's a double agent as well. There you go. What a fucking nonsense. Right, the Daily Record up here, it runs on a football story. It says First Minister condemned violence, Old Firm outrage. Aye, but here comes a blame game, And the blame for it will be aimed at the Scottish Government, and it will be aimed at the clubs. The clubs will blame the Scottish Government, the Scottish Government will blame the clubs, and the post will sit in the middle saying, But to be fair, folks, we know where to lay the blame for this. We can lay the blame at the TV companies demanding that this game was played late afternoon, and we can blame a certain MSP called James Kelly, and we can blame the Daily Record and the Sun, because while we had something called the Offensive Behaviour in Football Act, all this stuff disappeared. Sectarianism was disappearing. There was no football violence. And along comes this guy Kelly, after 5 or 6 years of this thing being in place, and goes, well, nobody's really getting prosecuted under this. You're right, they didn't want to be because there was penalties. Like being banned for every football stadium with throwing the pokey. So the Offensive Behaviour in Football Act was working. So here comes this Labour MP, MSP James Kelly, goes, well, we don't need this act, let's overturn it. The people are old enough and know how to behave themselves. In fact, let's go one better, let's get the alcohol back into the games and all. And of course, these two rags ran with it. And Kelly's bill became, Kelly's shout for the bill to be overturned became popular in the Parliament. So, The Offensive Behaviour at Football Act was overturned. Sectarianism was back, and now we're back at football violence. Having the sectarianism disappear, having the football violence disappear, doesn't suit a British narrative, which is divide and conquer. So we're on the run up to the referendum, and this nut and all the papers are shouting for football hooliganism to be returned, and it was returned. And now we reap the rewards. What does Davies say? Reintroduce the bill and make the penalties harsher. But you can't blame the clubs. You also can't blame the government. After the Kenny McCaskill report, the government was asked to step in, and that's where the Offensive Behaviour, the Football Act came from, and it was fucking working. Anyway, let's move on. The Sun is the same story. A clash over old firm, chaos, blame game. And apparently the First Minister is blaming the clubs, and the clubs is blaming the First Minister. It's like a fucking rerun of 15-year-old history. This is why McCaskill wrote the fucking report. He was commissioned to write the report. If people don't know, Kenny McCaskill was a politician up here as an ex-professional footballer. Also a lawyer, I believe. So we're back at the McCaskill report again. Fucking nonsense. Scotsman's got an interesting one. This one had me scratching my fucking head this morning, a bit like the Royal story. What's behind it? Well, what's behind this one? The Scotsman. You know, watchdog and blast at SNP ministers in secrecy row. I thought, oh aye, what's this all about? It's all about a story that was dragged through the courts, dragged through a public inquiry, dragged through a televised parliamentary inquiry. An outside legal expert was brought in to make a ruling on this, and it was dismissed by the Scottish courts and all. And this is this claim that Nicola Sturgeon misled the Parliament during the Alex Salmond debacle. So apparently, the Transparency Commissioner, David Hamilton, has pulled this nonsense story out the bag for some reason when it was put to bed years ago, and has wrote to John Swinney demanding answers on. And then it all gets pretty vague. Yeah. They were criticised yesterday for releasing the legal advice to deal with this inquiry. And now, apparently, they're hiding stuff to deal with this inquiry. What's this nonsense all about? Well, apparently branch form's about to be fucking wound up. So we need another SNP bad story, SNP dishonest story, SNP no trustworthy story. And apart from that, the SNP are flying in the fucking polls. Independence support is rising again in the polls. So the intensity of nonsense in our press gets worse. But why? You've got to ask yourself, why is David Hamilton, the Transparency Commissioner, dragging up a 5-year-old story put to bed 5 years ago? Or maybe 4.5 years ago. I mean, this thing was fucking... It's so much public exposure that in the end the Parliament agreed to bring in a Northern Irish legal expert to look at all the evidence and decide whether Nicola had broke the ministerial code or not. And the guy did exactly that. Then he wrote his report, which clearly stated that looking at all the evidence, Miss Sturgeon hadn't misled the Parliament. So now the story apparently is about the amount of documents that were put out there after a Freedom of Information request. This one actually went into the courts because generally governments don't issue the legal advice. They just don't. And they don't have to. It's more or less convention that they don't have to. But in this particular instance, the SNP actually released a 101-page document. But apparently, David Hamilton's brought this up and said, no enough information. It's fucking Union Press SNP bad story because they're in a fucking state where Reform UK getting a foothold here, Labour in meltdown, and the SNP popularity rising in the polls again. Absolute nonsense. And the Herald goes on another nonsense story. And I'm going to put this one up to help you learn how to spot this nonsense. Okay. Give me 2 seconds, I'll go and grab it. Because this is important, this one. This is a good example of how to spot nonsense stories when you pick up a newspaper and you see the headline. Here we go. Let's get back. Cancel that. As I say, this one's important. That's why I went to get it. Ex-chief raises alarm over shipyard financial future. Investment budget will not be enough to secure new orders, says Tideman. Now, what's interesting about that headline is ex-chief raises alarm. Ex-chief, the guy whose whole board was sacked and replaced, says the Scottish Government's not giving enough money to this public-owned company for them to be competitive. What's interesting about that nonsense story is, and this is how you spot them, folks, ex-chief. Why didn't the Herald go and speak to the current chief, the new board? Why are we talking about an ex-chief instead of the new chief executive? There's a reason why he's the ex-chief executive. Because him and his whole fucking board were shite. So why is it that they didn't go and speak to the current board about whether they were happy with what budget they've been given? Remember, this yard's doing private work as well, folks. I don't know if you know this, but this yard, as well as doing A2 ferries, is also doing sub work for BAE on the Clyde. That's right, the MOD BAE on the Clyde. They're fabricating things that they can't do along there in the big shipyards. And they're making money doing that as well. So why didn't the Herald go and speak to the current board? Because it wouldn't have been able to spin a bad story out about the SNP budget. Because, let's face it, nobody's heard the current board or chief make a peep about what they're getting in the budget. And that's because the Scottish Government is not its only line of income. And that's getting down on Ferguson's. Never mind the fact that we do need to maintain shipbuilding on the Clyde. We can't lose these skills. That money would be enough as an investment for 49 million quid to keep all the guys employed. And that's another great point about it. That publicly run company is keeping 300-400 people in a job, and that's a double investment. It's not just in the people, but it's also in their economies, because they get their wages for the commercial work they're doing and for government backing, because it's a public run company, and they go spend in the economy. Public ownership's not always a bad thing. I mean, look at Prestwick making money. Bifab, well, the UK government strangled off any chance of him getting any fucking contracts. So Bifab was a bad bet. But Ferguson's will come good, and Prestwick's already run their profit. But as I say, you know it's a nonsense story, folks, when it says ex-chief says. What's the ex-chief fucking know? He was replaced 2 years ago. His whole fucking board was. Well, they do like to treat us like idiots, don't they? So, two contrived stories here in Scotland. The question is why? Well, the SNP are run their savvy in the polls. Must have more SNP bad stories. The Looney Rag, the Express, is also at it, but it's at it in England, with its fear-mongering ball story and anti-English government story. Okay, what's it got? Former NATO chief Lord Robertson gives PM stark choice. Boost defence spend or axe 20,000 troops. And you're like, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is this loony rag on about? If they kept the current defence spending, and there is currently X amount of people and the services, then the current spending would cover their wages. So why is Lord Robertson apparently warning part by Starmer to cut 20,000 troops or boost defence spending? It's nonsensical. None. It makes no sense whatsoever. They already have the budget to maintain the numbers we've got at the moment. Why does Starmer need to cut 20,000? This is nuts. That's a non-headline altogether. Anyway, let me fix that headline for the Looney Rag the Express. Has been politician sitting in the house of smelly old has-beens and drunkards advises PM to spend more money on defence. There you go. That's our whole headline wrapped up. It's a nonsense fucking story. Lord Robertson, who was at one time head of NATO, warns PM spend more money or cut the troops. A fucking nonsense story. Wow. Talk about the printed press treating us all like fucking idiots. Doesn't it take 2 minutes to look into the background of this nonsense? And find out that he wasn't warning PM at all, he was advising them, spend more. You know, we're in uncertain times. There you go. Fucking nonsense. Absolute nonsense. The National better get its game together. That's a pish headline, this one. Not put it up. Independence movement in need of refresh, says actor. Who cares? And he's optimistic young people will help pave the way. Well, the polling sort of shows that already. Get a grip, National. Martin's a nice fella. But, or whatever his fucking name is, I think it's Martin. Martin Scotland. Seems like a nice enough fella. I think I've ran across him actually at a couple of marches. Might have done. But that's no anything that we don't already know. Guys my age have been campaigning for this for fucking half my lifetime. Of course we need the young coming up behind us to keep the pressure on. That's a nonsense headline. It does get the pretty boy actor on the front page right now. Oh, as I say, there's some real shit in the papers today. As I say, but the majority here is worthy of the Star. Fucking Chinese spying and these operations in China. Fucking right there is. And when they sent them there to say, operations, you bet their arse. You bet your arse the British state knew that it'd be infiltrated. Nonsense. Blame game hour chaos, no fun. Blame fucking James Kelly. That's where the blame lies. Nonsense story dragged up by Transparency Commissioner. Story was put to bed 4 or 5 years ago. Mental. And then nonsense story about the shipyard on the publicly owned shipyard in the Clyde by an ex-disgruntled employee. And then a nonsense story about a drunken old lord advising PM it's a dangerous place out there. Maybe you want to spend a wee bit more on defence. Where's the real news? Where's the state complicit in genocide news? Where is the state breaks international law by allowing Israeli general to come with full diplomatic immunity to the UK? The general that oversaw the operation that killed three British aid workers in Gaza to the old kitchen. Where is the news of that bad economic data that's just been fucking released by the OBR, the ONS? Where's the reporting on the business sector already stopped hiring and started firing? Where's the real news printed press? Because this is all contrived nonsense. There's no real story on the front page of any of these rags today. Not one. It's unbelievable. The quality of the press. You're right, Joan. They are testing the public's patience with this nonsense, treating us all like bloody idiots, like goldfish, as if we don't have fucking memories. I mean, this whole Nicola Sturgeon breaching the fucking ministerial code. I've got it blow for blow on my iPad day in, day out as it was getting reported on. The public inquiry, the televised parliamentary inquiry where they said when Alec took his seat in the inquiry in the Parliament, the SNP were finished. Alec takes his seat and says, no, there was no conspiracy against me. Wow. Remember it, folks. It's all contrived nonsense. When drunken old lord advises Starmer. Let's get to the paper that we actually know is going to give us nonsense, shall we? We'll see if the stars get anything to fucking cheer us up today. Because I'm pretty well sick when I get in my car, because I don't watch television, the BBC Radio Scotland telling me how shite I am at everything. I do leave it on for that purpose so I can get a laugh at it. How shite my country is at everything. How shite my government is at everything. Even though we've got the best social contract in these islands, and the best public service in these islands, the most progressive tax base in these islands, the cheapest cost of living in these islands, and yet we're doing everything fucking wrong. Oh, I forgot about the football shit. Sorry, Holster. And we're getting everything wrong. Get bumped into my house day in, day out. And then you go for the printed press. And that's the nonsense we get. 6 or 7 non-stories and a couple of football stories. Oof, you couldn't make it up. Right, let's see what the stars go for us today. See if it'll fucking cheer us up, shall we? Scrooge alive and well in Fulham. Businessman charges friends and family $75 for Christmas dinner, and they have to use a card reader to cough up. Now this is the sort of nonsense story we want. We don't want fucking princelets and spies. We don't want contrived shite about fucking publicly owned fabrication yards. We don't want 5-year-old fucking shit being dragged up because the current government's popular. This is what we want. We want to know that there's some Scrooge in London charging his relatives £75 to come to Christmas dinner. That's brilliant. The only problem with it is, who the fuck would go? He's going to have an empty house. I'm not paying £75 to see this fucking clown and hope he cooks well. I wouldn't pay £75 for fucking Christmas dinner in a restaurant. Never mind in some relative's house. Nah. Lovely. Great star headline. But I mean, it's right up there with the nonsense we've had in the real papers today. But that's what the Star does. The Star does nonsense. Unfortunately, it's becoming more common in the broadsheets and in the red tops. So, anyway, that's it for the day. You've had a rant. You've had my disgust at the quality that will go in the papers, the quality of journalism, the fact that we're all being treated as fucking stupid. Yeah, I need to deal with a big fella here. He's wanting a list. So, as I say, if you wake up Christmas morning and you've got one present light, it's because you were on the naughty step. Santa's here to get the list. Alright? Okay. That's it for today. That's it for the week. But what a way to round off the week these fucking papers today, yeah? Unbloody believable. Anyway, I better bugger off. I've got Sarah to pick up in 24 minutes. No, I haven't. This isn't fucking Friday, is it? This is Tuesday. Sorry, folks, I'm all confused. I didn't get much sleep last night. I only just go to my bed and Sarah got me up to take her to work. Oh, it's not the last day of the week. It's only the second day of the week. That's a nonsense. We'll go the rest of the week. You go, oh, fuck, I was hoping it was the weekend. Okay, I'll wait and schedule the morning's programme now to know what day of the week it is. Catch you later. Say bye, Santa.